Unfortunately for all of us, I'm back. And yeah, right, here's the one you're all asking for, you can stop now. Evidently, Mystic Knight is very popular, and with good reason. Do you wish to combine both blade and sorcery to become a whirling force of steel and magic? Do you seek to become a righteous spellblade capable of protecting their allies? Or do you simply have a deep, personal vendetta against those who have the nerve, the complete and utter gall to stand in your way and still be drawing breath? Whatever the case, you're probably gonna like this one, because fucking everyone does. Lovers of melee and magic rejoice as we embark on a mystic quest to learn the ways of the Mystic Knight. Mystic Knight isn't quite so simple as taking melee combat and magic and smashing them together. The vocation almost feels like an evolution of the fighter's stable defensive style due to its focus on the magic shield, and it is arguably the most defensive vocation in the game. Skills such as Great Sigil serve to reinforce this idea and allow you to play as something of a heavily armored turret. However, there's absolutely nothing stopping you from cutting loose too, and between your sword skills and various forms of magic, you have plenty of tools and options at your disposal. Many of those sword skills are inherited from Fighter, giving you access to such top tier skills as Burst Strike and Antler Toss. And let's not forget that aerial heavy attack. Because this is a hybrid vocation, however, Mystic Knight also inherits various magical skills from Mage, and while it doesn't quite inherit elemental affinities, it has its own equivalent, which comes in the form of the elemental trance skills. These are notable for enchanting the entire party at once. Aside from that, they function very similarly, so I won't be going over them here. These are all worth staying aware of to ensure you're getting the most out of the vocation. This vocation even has a unique spell one can make use of with a staff, Sopa, which creates a magical field that can put enemies to sleep. But that's the only unique staff spell it has to offer, and while you could play this vocation as a mage capable of wearing heavy armor, maybe don't do that, you little weirdo. The class seems very much built for a sword and magic shield loadout, though you'd be free to mix that up with a mace instead. If you recall perfect blocking from the fighter guide, it's important to know it makes a return here, but it evolves further when paired with Mystic Knight's elemental counters, which upgrade to ripostes. After using one of these, normal blocking will deal damage based on the corresponding element to any attackers. But perfect blocking results in different unique effects depending on the element. Basically, casting a spell is an instant counterattack. Fire results in 3 spheres of flame like High Angle, which is good for reliable damage. Ice delivers a blast of cold capable of freezing enemies akin to the Frizzle spell, making it notably more consistent than the actual spell since it won't undo its own effect. Thunder delivers 3 strikes of lightning like Levin, and it's very important to note these will strike enemies at a generous range, allowing the Mystic Knight to parry and counterattack foes too far away to be engaged in melee. Holy creates 3 orbs of light that drift forwards, and Dark releases a cone of magic in front of the shield which possesses a strong torpor property, functioning similarly to the Ice version. Now let's get into Mystic Knight's unique sword skills. First off is Sky Rapture. Think of this like an aerial burst strike. When used after jumping, it's just as good for covering distance, and can even be used to extend your jumps across lengthy gaps. However, when used on the ground, it includes a launching portion of the attack, which sends nearby small to medium enemies into the air with you. Again, like burst strike, this move has considerable knockdown. Note that you can even chain certain ripostes into this skill after launching an enemy, and if you don't think that's the sickest shit, then you can't come over to my house, and I have Bionicle. Ruinous Sigil allows you to lay down your gamer zone, planting a sigil that creates a shockwave and covers a 2-meter radius around your current position that lasts for 30 seconds, or until it delivers a number of strikes. Because your enemies lack the necessary gamer vibes to enter, they will take damage within its radius, and smaller enemies will even be launched by it. If you've been manually enchanted, the sigil takes on the element of that enchantment and can also be utilized to inflict debilitations. This one's excellent to use as a defensive option, especially to keep casters safe, but it's also a good choice to use offensively too. It's highly effective to slap one down near any weak points of a knockdown enemy since it will relentlessly deal damage. And because you can place 2 of these down at once, you can even do cheeky shit like ping pong enemies between them. It's also useful for staggering and even knocking down large enemies. Ruinous Sigil also synergizes astoundingly well with Great Cannon, but we'll get to that later. For now though, let's look at Vortex Sigil. It's 3 AM. I don't actually have a script for this part because this skill turned out to be so horrendously bad that I had to scrap what I had written up for it, so I'm just gonna start saying shit. To kind of abridge what I had typed up, the whole deal with Vortex Sigil is you do an incantation, you create a vortex, and it draws in lightweight enemies, and that's supposed to be good for crowd control. But the problem is, it's stupidly fucking weak. I didn't even bother getting almost any footage for this because it's so abysmal. Like, it can't even hold goblins. What the fuck is going on? Like, is it broken? What the fuck? I think something went wrong with this skill, honestly. I finally understand how my father feels, because I now know true disappointment. Man, I've had this cough for like 5 months. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Anyway, I'm gonna like go to sleep now. Back to you, Thiefy, in the video. Fuck. Thanks me, you big dickhead. Great Cannon is more or less the quintessential Mystic Knight skill. This thing basically defines the vocation, so it's no surprise that it synergizes with multiple other skills. And everyone and their grandma fucking loves it. I, however, am a jaded contrarian who doesn't want anyone to have any fun. But I'll get to that in a moment, so start warming up your pitchforks now. Utilizing your prowess over the vast forces of the arcane, you muster your magical talents into summoning Ball! Give it a good whack and it fires a bunch of magic orbs that seek out targets, dealing both physical and magic damage. Great Cannon lasts for just under 20 seconds and takes on the element of your current enchantment, permanent or temporary. While you can summon up to 3 of these, they tend to be most effective when you summon 2, and once you have, just start whacking balls until everything dies. Real talk, because it's triggered by almost any attack, this thing is capable of doing stupid damage. It can even be triggered by a perfect block, which tends to be especially effective with a wholly enchanted shield. The orbs have a very good range and are capable of dealing damage to every enemy in the game due to their mixed damage types. You just can't go wrong with it, and basically any Mystic Knight should probably be making use of this skill. But I'm personally not a huge fan of it because while you can use it in tandem with regular attacks, it basically reduces a lot of fights to hit ball instead of an actually dynamic battle, but that angle could also be applied to stuff like ranged classes in general, and I also have 0 ground to stand on because Dire Gouge is probably my favorite skill in the game, and that's even less interactive. I'm just a grumpy fuck. Stone Forest, despite the name, is a fire-based skill which requires a 6-second long incantation, after which you drive your weapon into the ground to deal heavy damage in a decently wide radius as 16 pillars of flame erupt around you. It's capable of launching small enemies, knocking over large ones, and setting them on fire. Because it takes as long as it does to cast, you should probably be careful when using this one or you could get slapped. Might be worth prioritizing slower or knockdown enemies, but hey, no guts, no glory, and we both know Mama didn't raise no bitch. The pillars reach high enough that if you time it well, you can down a swooping dragon, and anyone who pulls that off is a certified cool guy, so here goes. When it comes to magical shield skills, aside from the aforementioned counters and enchantments, we have Demon's Wrath, which is a sick as hell name. The skill allows you to imbue your shield with a dark aura that converts block damage into a charge that can be released by activating the skill again to fire a magical blast back at attacking foes. There are actually 3 parts to said blast that happen in rapid succession. A small, weaker shockwave followed by a blast in the shape of a narrow cone, and finally a big boy powerful shockwave with high knockback that lets everyone know this guy is definitely into some shady magical shit. Lock him up. How quickly the charge builds is relative to the strength of the incoming damage, and perfect blocking builds this charge a lot faster. Worth noting, the shockwave takes on the elemental properties of whatever temporary enchantment your magical shield currently has. Not only will it strike multiple enemies in a row, but it's capable of damaging large ones multiple times. Try using it when they're knocked down or line yourself up so that you can cover the length of their body with the blast. Holy Fortress is a pretty cool defensive spell that creates a large magical barrier over your shield which blocks almost any incoming attack in a frontal arc. Exceptions include breath attacks and projectiles launched at point-blank range. This barrier remains for 2 full minutes and is especially useful for protecting allies such as casters who might be vulnerable while intoning spells, or for keeping your footing while blocking attacks, which lets you easily swap between defense and offense in order to quickly counterattack and get right back to blocking. This is a solid and fun ability to have on hand if you want to lean into the defensive tank angle. Abyssal Anguish surrounds your weapon with an aura of darkness, which sounds like an enchantment, and while it sort of functions like one, this actually stacks on top of your current enchantment, allowing you to attack with multiple elements at once. It lasts for 90 seconds and the aura extends the range of your weapon by almost a full meter, adding damage and 3 extra strikes to each attack, plus a varying number of shockwaves depending on the attack used. Due to a moderate cast time, I'd recommend using this in preparation for a fight, and it's definitely worth it for the extra damage. This is a really significant boost. Not only are the extra strikes and shockwaves a godsend, the increased range makes it easier to reach weak points. And due to the size of larger enemy hitboxes, you can feasibly strike a weak point up to around 10 times per swing! That's ridiculous! Oh yeah, also, I figured out what's weak to darkness in the game, and turns out it's literally fucking Grigori, so that's kind of a big deal. Holy Grace is sort of akin to a holy version of Demon's Wrath, where instead of converting incoming attacks into damage, it instead converts them into health. This is notable for the fact that unlike Anodyne, this can heal beyond the white section of a health bar with a perfect block. And like Demon's Wrath, the potency of said heal relates to incoming damage, though in this case it's more specifically to do with how much damage one would have taken had the block not happened, based on the ratio of damage to total health. The weaker or more vulnerable you are, the higher the heal potency, up to a maximum multiplier of 6.8 the base healing. And of course, perfect blocks will boost this healing further, roughly tripling it. Also worth noting, both Holy Grace and Demon's Wrath make perfect blocking a little bit easier. If you're handed with a shield, you should absolutely consider this for making yourself a lot harder to kill. It's not going to heal any allies, but it can make you an absolute monster. Fun fact, when a dragon flaps its wings, although the blasts of wind do no actual damage, they will still generously recover your health if blocked. So stay aware of this as an opportunity for free healing. Holy Fura is a spell that unleashes a massive radius of surging beams of light around the caster, dealing holy damage to any enemies caught within, and potentially inflicting debilitations based on your magic shield. Additionally, while standing in a radius roughly twice as large as that of the light beams, the caster and allies will have their stamina regenerated. However, once the spell completes, the entire party will have their stamina drained completely, presenting a potentially dangerous and inconvenient drawback. There are of course workarounds to mitigate the impact of this, such as the Grit Augment and certain curatives, but it still stands out as a bad choice because there are just better alternatives available that don't result in exhausting your entire party.
Oh, walking up one flight of stairs, that'll really do it to a man.
Up next are the Augments. There are some pretty decent choices here, but I'd recommend Adamance, which halves the stamina cost of blocking, and Periphery, which increases your resistance to being staggered while blocking. If you're looking to boost your physical defense, stacking Fortitude with other defensive augments like Warrior's Bastion is a good call. And Sanctuary is especially notable for the fact that it actually reduces incoming physical damage to 1 health per strike once you enter a critical state, allowing you to survive a lot longer than you otherwise would. However, despite what the description states, this does not apply to magical damage. This will only save your bacon against a purely physical assault. Mystic Knight is a very solid choice for anyone looking to mix up their melee combat with the inherent versatility of magic. It's a tactical vocation that excels when a player knows how to utilize its fantastic defensive capability to properly complement its massive potential for dealing damage. Those who familiarize themselves with perfect blocking early on will find themselves at a considerable advantage when it comes to Mystic Knight, as turning an enemy's attacks against them is one of the vocation's greatest strengths. When a Mystic Knight becomes more experienced and starts fighting proactively rather than just reactively, their real potential kicks in at full force, at which point they become an unstoppable force of might and magic, dancing between sword, shield, and spells to turn the tide of battle entirely against their enemies. Or just fucking blast them with the funny ball. Magic Arch is next, bye. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to subscribe, drop a like, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. You can join my Discord for updates and to hang out with the lovely members of the Thieves Guild. I can also be followed on Twitter, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so on Patreon, or simply donate directly via PayPal. Links can be found in the description below. Have a great day. I'll catch you next time.